Welcome to the Visser Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Richard Visser. I'm a former Minister of Health and Sports with a PhD in medical sciences. I'm a published researcher, and a long time ago, I started my career as a doctor of chiropractic. Together, I want to explore wellness. I want to explore longevity to get you to the best health you've ever known. So join me on this podcast. Welcome to the Visser Podcast. This is part 3 of stem cells. We will be coming back to stem cells as we have developments, because as you know, it's a growing field. It's a field where we're discovering new cancer therapies, autoimmune diseases, neurodegenerative diseases, you name it. There's things developing every day. So we will come back to this plenty of times, but I think this is a very good basis. And really today I wanted to review what to expect, what to look for, how can it help you, kind of review what we've been through in the first and second episode. First episode we did mostly focused on mesenchymal stem cells and gave you an overview. Second episode we did exosomes. Those are the little vesicles that come out of the mesenchymal stem cells that carry information that basically cells use to communicate from one cell to another. Very powerful, especially because they're so tiny. They're the size of a virus. They can pass through the blood-brain barrier. They can pass through, any barrier that we have, different tissues, the joints, everything to get into the cells they need to get into. So it's something we're making a lot of use of. And not only that, when we combine the two, mesenchymal stem cells and exosomes, and we'll talk about how we do that, it even enhances the outcomes that we're seeing. So, clarify, we don't cure anything. We don't treat anything. We mitigate. What does that mean? It means we help the body heal itself. These treatments really are activating our own cells to regenerate, our own cells to start healing process. And as you know, when we age, one of the things that we have is we have chronic inflammation that we can't get rid of, which is, devastating to our bodies, our immune system, our nervous system. So one of the properties of using stem cells is lowering of inflammation markers and inflammation, general systemic inflammation. And then also being able to lower inflammation in specific areas. Stem cells have homing mechanism, which basically is once we put them in your body, IV, either stem cells or exosomes, they will find throughout your body areas that are going through inflammation. So we have very important immunomodulatory properties with stem cells. They have the ability to differentiate into various cell types. And going back to what we're using, people might ask, well, because we're getting it from fetal tissue and umbilical cord, Wharton's jelly, I think a big question would be, well, how isn't my body going to reject it because this is from someone else? No, it's not. And the reason is because mesenchymal stem cells have no MHC2 markers, which then makes them immunologically privileged. So you will not get a reaction against the donor cells. Very unique, very amazing. And the same goes for the exosomes that we're getting from there. The other question I think that comes up a lot is, when we're looking at the categories, we're working with adult stem cells, even though they're coming from the umbilical cord, so the Wharton jelly, usually from mothers that are pretty young, so under 36 or, in that range, healthy. The tissue gets tested for any diseases, anything that it might contain. So we are sure that the tissue is completely clean. These tests get done, laboratory tests get done before we take those cultures in. And then, of course, processed in an environment that's GMP and ISO certified. Also, in Turkey, we connect to the government in that every treatment is registered with the government. Also, the outcomes of the treatment get registered with the government here. So there's a pretty strict protocol in using these experimental methods and looking at, how we use them, when we use them, with whom, because everything gets registered and kind of checked, which is good. It needs to be checked. You need to have the quality high. And we also have trained more than 1,500 physicians, specialists, to be able to do this work. So they're certified by the big university in cooperation with Abisern to do this work. And I'll talk about that a little later too, why we do that. Of course, quality. We want the highest quality. We want to know exactly, pathway of the cells all the way from when we extract them, culture them, all the way to the doctor and the patient. So when we look at the adult stem cells that we use, so you have, we see that people always confuse it with embryonic stem cell. Now, embryonic stem cells we don't touch because there's an ethical issue, and there's also the issue of tumorigenesis, so that it's, embryonic stem cells can induce tumors or promote tumor cells. Can, not necessarily, but can. So, and as we see in the studies, the extraembryonic human Wharton's jelly stem cells do not induce tumorigenesis, unlike the human embryonic stem cells. This is in a study from 2012, which I'll include. And so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so reviewing quickly, what do stem cells do? Okay, they have been studied for their benefits with regenerative medicine. I mean, this is state of the art. It's where, yeah, you can go back and say, God, if I had this earlier, I could have helped my mom, I could have helped my dad, I could have helped, a lot of people, friends of mine that have passed, even through COVID. We could have helped them with this, but it is what it is, and we're really at the cusp of this, and that's why I'm passionate about this work that we do. So if you look at regenerative medicine, we look at the potential of repair and regeneration of damaged tissue and organ. This is in applications in conditions like osteoarthritis, where it helps repair the cartilage. Cardiac disease, so right after a heart attack, we'll see that the ability to repair muscle tissue in the heart. Also with stroke victims. And so the ramifications are very big in this field. Second field that we're looking at and that we're studying is autoimmune disease, given their immunomodulatory capacities or capability. Their potential use, we're looking at multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and the list, where the body's immune system mistakenly attacks its own cells. So all these inflammatory issues that we have where the body just starts, eating away at cartilage, at tissue, at everything. So this is an area where stem cells are going to give us a huge advantage. And if we look at a third area is also grafts versus host diseases. The condition can occur after stem cells or bone marrow transplant, where the donated cells attack the recipient's body. So studies have suggested that mesenchymal stem cells might help prevent or treat GVHD, and that's, the grafts versus host cell disease. Number 4, neurological disorders. Some researchers have explored the use of mesenchymal stem cells for Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, stroke based on their potential to regenerate neurons and other brain cells. Because as we said before, they pass the blood-brain barrier, and they're very, very efficient at this, and they're able to repair tissue that are, that's not very easily accessible. So number 5 was COVID-19 treatment. The same clinical trials have been conducted to evaluate the safety and efficacy of mesenchymal stem cells in treating COVID. And this has been done successfully, modulating the overactive response known as cytokine storm. So this is really with COVID has been a success story. And number 6, which is super important and which we're just starting to get into now, is drug development and disease modeling. Stem cells, especially, the iPSCs, can be used to create disease models for better understanding disease and developing new drugs. And also, as we talked before, the exosomes being able to package messages and put back into the body to basically treat cancer. So what are the groupings? And we're gonna, I'll put up a list with some of the stuff, but and there's too many to mention, where we can mitigate the disease, we can mitigate the condition. Starting with autism, we've seen really good results with multiple treatments with autistic kids. Neurodegenerative, of course, and there's a whole category under neurodegenerative disease. Orthopedic issues, so everything from, tendon, bone, ligaments, you name it, orthopedically, that really where we can avoid surgery. And why not avoid surgery? So you see a lot of athletes, a lot of professionals going for this treatment. And a lot of it has to do with the orthopedic side of things. Pulmonary, for sure. We know that stem cells actually, after they enter the body, at the end, when they circulate, they kind of accumulate around the lungs and start healing the lungs. Autoimmune disease, that's a huge one. We've struggled with this in medicine, and this gives a new area where we can come in and mitigate. Urologic, so even with erectile dysfunction, works. Diabetes, type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Ophthalmologic, so with the cornea. Now the cornea we'll touch upon. It's very difficult to do. This is where you need a top physician to be able to do this procedure, if that is a procedure that you need, because it is one that it's kind of, it's high risk. So that one you need to really have the top guys to be able to bring that in. Kidney, heart, liver, so the organs. And then there's a huge component, which is, ladies will like this, and some of the guys do, the cosmetic side. So facial rejuvenation, acne, scars, wound healing, burns, hair growth, which we spoke about. Huge. No downtime. No surgery. So phenomenal. Okay, so there's a huge part of this cosmetic now with using exosomes, with using mesenchymal stem cells to get the elasticity back, to get the collagen fluffed up again, and able to do that with your own body. So your body actually repairs itself, which is phenomenal. I'd prefer that any day of the week than having to deal with all these fillers and Botox continuously and all that stuff. Because, when you, I guess it works okay, but, what my concern always with fillers has been, if you're doing it, and I know a lot of ladies are doing them, but when you fluctuate in weight, what happens? Because you see transformations because of the weight, because our body changes, the fat components of our bodies change, and it just starts sometimes looking weird. And a lot of times the work you get done, really depends on the physician. It can look not so good. So yeah, so this is more of a way to naturally have your body enhance itself, get to a younger state. And you can combine it, doesn't matter, but this is, I like this. So when we combine the exosomes and the mesenchymal stem cells, we have seen that the results are even better, all right? And the reason is because a lot of times when we use mesenchymal stem cells, we'll go systemic with it. So we'll do it in an IV drip, get it through the body, and then we come in with the exosomes and go specifically. Let's say you have, my shoulder's hurting, so I'm probably going to get this, which I'll go specific, I'll do a mesenchymal stem cell. So for my body to get, my immune system going, to get the inflammation down, generally. It's homing, so it's going to places. Then what I'll have them do is I'll do the exosomes. These are the vesicles, remember, they're tiny, they're like virus particles, but they bring the information. So they'll bring the information to the cells to say, hey, we need to regenerate, we need to start up again, we need to build new cells. I'll have them inject straight into my bicep tendons, which is on the right side, which I always have problems with, my bench and all this. It's just an old injury. My AC, acromioclavicular joint, just to get that, get a little healing there. That bothers me sometimes. We're also seeing injecting straight into the disc as giving some results. This is interesting for me because before this, what do you have? You have, of course, chiropractic care, and you have surgery. And we know with surgery, man, the results are not good. Okay, you go in for surgery, you're going to go in for your second surgery, your third surgery. It's just not good, and they haven't progressed with surgery. Yes, they've progressed in the sense that the cut is smaller. You get this little tiny cut, and you're up and at them the same day. Yes, they've progressed there, but the actual procedure, no. You either rip out the disc, you fuse the spine, you bolt the spine together. I mean, that's still barbaric, still doesn't work. And it causes that the disc above or the disc below starts degenerating because they get too much, they get too much pressure, and they have to take over all the work. And you haven't resolved the original problem, which is the imbalance, which is, the asymmetry, etc. Now, chiropractic does a better job is this if the patient is willing to work. It takes a lot of work. What happens with the disc hernias or anything, we're able to stabilize that, decrease the inflammation to some extent. You're not going to get rid of a hernia. It's just going to stay there, but it's not going to be symptomatic anymore, and you can go into maintenance. But what we've seen with stem cells is that hernia can actually retract into the disc. Now, it's not guaranteed, of course. It's a mitigation. Okay, it's not a treatment, but we've seen this on MRI, so it's promising. And to me, it makes me very excited. It makes me very excited because if we can do that, then that's a huge advantage with spinal issues, with disc issues in neck, in the lower back. That would be great. And we know how many people, it's like 90+% of the world suffers from this. So this is amazing area. I won't keep you in there though. We got a lot of stuff to cover. So what do they do, the combination of exosomes? Well, as I said before, tissue regeneration, repair, immunomodulation and inflammatory control, drug delivery system, and we're able to do personalized treatment of various diseases and disorder. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Well, how do they do this? They do this by transfer of genetic material. So we're talking about microRNA, mRNA, proteins, everything that these exosomes carry goes to the recipient cells. Induction of cellular signaling pathways, modulation of the immune responses, promotion of tissue regeneration, and angiogenesis. Some of the things that are happening when we do this. So if we look at one of the other things that we talked about a little bit, fibroblasts. Fibroblasts basically will take a biopsy behind the ear, and it's something we can use depending on your physician what he wants to do. The fibroblasts are uniquely poised for tissue repair by easily re-entering the cell cycle and exhibiting a reversible plasticity in phenotype and cell fate. These properties, when activated, drive fibrotic disorders in humans. So where do we use them? Lip augmentation, treatment to the upper lip lines, pits in the skin, wrinkle treatment, skin cracks, tissue loss that occurs after an accident or birth, wound healing, acne, chickenpox scars. It tightens and rejuvenates the skin. So a lot of the stuff that we talked about also with exosomes, but you can, get it from here. So where do we do the punch biopsy? The punch biopsy gets done behind the ear, armpit, or groin. A kit is provided. It's sent to the lab within 24 hours by cold chain. At the end of 4 weeks, you have 100 cells. The final product is then prepared and made injectable. It's used with the mesotherapy method. So the average 30 million fibroblast cells are used in each sitting, stored at minus 196 degrees Celsius. The other one is chondroblasts. And chondroblasts, we look at cartilage. So specific if we need cartilage growth, if cartilage is damaged, we're looking at chondroblasts. And lastly, the limbal stem cells. The limbal stem cells really are for the cornea, the eye repair. And this is where we really need to watch out. We need to have a physician, a specialist that really knows what they're doing with this, because this one is high risk. So in summation, we have a very unique area of medicine here, of regenerative medicine, that is showing such a potential. This is also why, all these people are flying out, out of the US, out of Europe to get these treatments done. We have to be careful where we go. We have to make sure that we're guaranteed of the quality that is being given in the cells, that from, like I said before, from farm to fork, from, when it's hatched, that they're doing the right testing on the patients that they're getting it from, and that, it's processed correctly in the lab, that you're getting the amount of cells that you need to get, that the cold chain, which means how it's kept alive, minus 80 degrees Celsius, through the whole time until it gets to the doctor. As soon as it gets to the doctor and the temperature starts lowering, cells start dying. So that needs to be monitored closely. Otherwise, you're going to get a whole IV of nothing. So the whole process it needs to be a high quality clinic. It needs to be specialists that know what they're doing. And so what we've done is trained over 1,500 physicians, specifically certified them together with one of the biggest universities here, medical universities, and able to basically say, okay, these guys in their field are specialized to do this type of work, the stem cell work, because you want specialists you want the orthopedists to do orthopedic, injections, because they know the joints. They know, they're able to go in and basically use an ultrasound to see where the needle is going, be more specific. The more specific they can be with the exosomes, the better the results. So you want that. You want, a cardiologist or cardiac surgeon to be able to do the cardiac stem cells, so that, you have that. You want a neurologist or neurosurgeon to be able to do the stroke victims. So you want a specialty to be able to do this. And so that's why we train the specialists generally, but also specifically in their field. You want the dermatologist, the plastic surgeon to be able to do the face, of course, etc., etc. So you need to train the specific specialists in their fields. This is extremely important. And the training actually takes time. They need to know. It's a new field. So even physicians are kind of, not 100% in the know of this, believe it or not. So they need to be trained. And so we have an extensive training with specialists, with university professors that put this on and that get these guys certified. So bear in mind these, one of the things that is easy, and you might ask, okay, where do I get to this? Well, you can go to veradoctors.com. I'll put the link in the description. It will be up and running in a couple of months. So veradoctors.com right now is being we're doing a revamping on it. So by August, September, we should be full blast and come on the site, and then be able to look at all the physicians that are trained and certified, and you can actually communicate with them. You can talk to them. You can, ask your questions. And if you ever want to proceed this is the way to do it on that platform. The other one is avicerna.com. Avicerna.com is actually the lab, is where we produce the stem cells. And so you can go here for information. If you're a physician, you can go here to find out about how to get certified and how to get stem cells so you can use on your patients. These are also shipped worldwide. We have a cold chain shipping method, so it's all in there, thought of. I want to thank you guys for this episode. It is, like I said, it is close to my heart. It is something that I believe in. We're just starting, and there's so much more to discover in this field of regenerative medicine. But because I come from prevention, as you know, my background also with chiropractic, my background in sports medicine, and you know, this really is a game changer. And it's a game changer for what we do. It's a game changer in tools that we use. And it's a game changer for outcomes for patients that didn't think there were any other roads they could travel down.
6cc we have. This is the articulation. That's not.
Alright, that's the acromioclavicular.
No,
We're going for the bicep tendon.
it's biceps. It hurts.
Yeah, there.
Is there a pain?
There a little bit.
Cricket purchase. Is there pain?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's 1cc is right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 2 heads of 2 biceps
Okay.
and the articulation.
Perfect. Bulletproof now. So thank you very much. Subscribe, ring the bell notification, give me some comment, get the algorithm going. Join this journey, because like I always say, if you join this journey, you're going to find out the healthiest you ever. I guarantee it. See you next time.